Okay, I'm afraid that this that we're going on to now is going to be our last segment of the debate, and it is VP Welfare and Diversity, a new role, brand new role. We had something that was slightly like it a couple of years ago, and then they were made they made it vice president, so gave it more on the hierarchy. So what we're going to have a look at is one of the candidates' manifesto points first. It's Mr. Dave Tingle. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
Hi, I'm Dave Tingle and I'm running for VP Welfare Diversity. Now over the years I've been so involved in the union, from media committees, helping all the volunteers get trained and have fun. But then I saw that my friends who had graduated had nothing to come back and get involved with. So I ran for Alumni DO, got that and created a whole load more alumni things. Now I see an area of development of welfare and diversity, and I really want to be a driving force behind that this year. I've pledged to speak to 500 students a week to really discover everyone's welfare issues. I want to support, help and develop the mental health services in Loughborough. I want to increase the number of actual international students attending international events. I want to combat exam stress by having a revision and coursework timetabler on the website. I want to increase student safety on campus. And I want to remain accountable on my full 17-point manifesto by producing a bi-weekly update. So make sure to check out my full manifesto and my Facebook page, facebook.com/PringleTingle, and vote Dave, VP Welfare Diversity.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Okay, now next up we have the manifesto points of Miss Izzy Ford. Let's have a look what she had to say.
Hi, I'm Izzy and I'm running to be your next Vice President Welfare and Diversity. I'm a third year studying geography and part of LSU Dance. Through my experiences on various different committees, including being an active member of the Welfare and Diversity Committee, I believe I'm the perfect candidate for the position. If elected, I aim to maintain and develop current welfare and diversity events so they can become renowned. I also want to expand the campaign Better Decisions to cover more aspects of student behaviour. I want to increase the awareness of welfare and diversity services and facilities through promoting and centralising on loughborough.net. And finally, I want to establish specific support groups and drop-in sessions for those who feel underrepresented and for issues such as bereavement, self-harm, bullying and eating disorders. I have a passion and a keen interest in promoting the welfare of students, bettering their Loughborough experience and encouraging a more diverse Loughborough for all. So please vote Izzy Rascal for your next VP Welfare and Diversity.
Please welcome to the stage, Izzy Ford. Some great support for you there, Izzy, in the crowd. That's great to see. And we have a final candidate for VP Welfare and Diversity. Let's have a look at the manifesto points of Mr. Murtaza Haider.
Hi, I'm Supermaz and I'm running to be your next VP Welfare and Diversity Officer. My 5 years here have been absolutely brilliant and I've loved every second of it. I've played tennis, I've been part of an AU club committee, I've been on a society committee as well, I've been a union councillor, I've been a rag rep. So I've got involved in a whole lot of new things and which I think, and met so many new people, which I think is part of the role itself. I believe I'd make a good candidate for the job because I've got the knowledge, skills and ideas to create a positive impact on your Loughborough experience as I've had with mine. As well as to get you to interact with a diverse range of students and to create and publicise new and existing opportunities that will not only help you at your time at Loughborough but also foster your development once you leave. So look out for me and don't forget to vote Supermaz.
Ladies and gents, Murtaza Haider. Hello, Maz. Thanks for joining us. How is everyone feeling? Maz, how are you feeling about this evening? Yeah, good. Confident, is he?
Excited.
Excited, and Dave?
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Okay, we've got confident, excited, and okay. Mixed. Mixed emotions. Now, obviously, on my right, I have the current VP Welfare and Diversity, Miss Georgie Court. Georgie, obviously, it's a baby position. What have you felt coming into the position? What advice would you give these guys?
I personally have absolutely loved the role. I really like both sections, both welfare and diversity, even though they're completely different. I would say to try and enjoy it and to try and take initiative, because it is so new. It can literally be moulded into anything, and I think that it would be really nice to see the kind of events that I've done this year carried on, but kind of alongside that, it would be great to see some new different events kind of moulded into that as well. So.
Thank you very much, Georgie. Okay, so let's kickstart the debate if we're all ready, ladies and gents. Mr. Linsky, who have we got?
Yeah, a hotly contested one, this one. If you want to scrutinise these three candidates to see who gets your vote, do tweet us using the hashtag #TheBubbleDebate. Just a little bit of a reminder there. Chris Begg. Is he in the audience anywhere? Hello, Chris. Your questions for the candidates.
Yeah. Is there any specific event or change that you would make to the Sober Freshers Week and the Health and Wellbeing Week? Perhaps you've learnt some lessons from this year, from Georgie's experiences.
Okay, so Izzy, have you learnt any lessons this year from Georgie's experience? What would you implement next year?
Well, I've been working alongside Georgie on our Welfare and Diversity Committee. I know during Sober Freshers Week, everything did go really well. There was a few different areas which maybe could have been developed more, but then such as, I think it was the self-defence class, we didn't really get that many people. So, for example, maybe it just needed a bit more advertising and that sort of thing. But overall, I think the Sober Freshers was really, really successful, and I would maybe suggest putting it on the Freshers DVD that gets sent out. And the Health and Wellbeing Week, again, that was really good, big success, especially cute superhumans. But for that, I would say maybe on the Health and Wellbeing Day on the Wednesday, to move it to later, because we started at 10 o'clock and it was just too early. No one was willing to get out of bed hungover to come to that during refreshers.
So perhaps little changes that make a big difference. Dave, same question to you.
Yeah, basically with Sober Freshers Week, I think it was a really great thing to introduce. I think we basically need to focus on the fact that it's not purely for people that don't drink. It's literally for people. It's for everyone. Like, I was talking to my flatmate who doesn't drink, and basically his impression of Sober Freshers Week is it's for everyone who's not very fun, which is not how it should be at all. And of course, that's not what it was ever intended to be. But I think we have a huge budget for sort of a live act in the union. Why can't we use some of that to get sort of a big time comedian, you know? And it doesn't have to. You don't have to drink for that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the events we've done have been fantastic. Although in my manifesto, I think we've gone too far in the number of events, because I was part of the committee that set up this role, and it was never meant to take over the SOC-Fed role, was never meant to take over the Global Development Officer, because all those events were happening, and these events have been fantastic. But I think this role should really be going out and speaking to students and really trying to make the difference in that way.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And Maz,
can you repeat the question again, sorry?
Yes, so obviously George has implemented a lot of events this year to establish her role. What have you learned from George's experience, and what will you implement next year?
Yeah.
You're okay with this?
Yeah,
Maz, yeah.
Well, I think what I've learned from this role itself is, because Georgie said welfare and diversity are completely two different aspects of the role itself. I think one of the key things that I've learned from this role have been to go out and interact with people that you wouldn't normally interact with on a day-to-day basis, hence the aspect of diversity. And I think the point of getting people involved would, the point of getting people involved is something that the Loughborough experience is about itself, and different ways to do that. One of my key manifesto points would be to emphasize on the cultural aspect of the diversity role, and again, sort of trying to get different cultural societies like the ACS, the Hindu SOC, the Islamic Society, more involved in the Loughborough experience. Hence, they would not only get to meet different people in different cultures, but they can also learn to sort of interact with one another, again, groups that wouldn't normally sort of come face to face.
Okay, thank you very much, Maz. John, a very highly contested position, the most highly contested we've had this evening. How do you sort one candidate from the other?
Well, it's an interesting question to ask. In fact, I'd like to pitch something to Dave. You've been around a lot and you've got a lot of experience, and within each of them, I remember you always say that it builds up your own skill base, but you always give something back. Given the amount of positions that you've had, don't you think the most valuable thing you could give back is a seat on the executive?
So what do I think the most valuable thing I can give back is a seat on the executive?
Basically, you've had so many positions over the time. Don't you think it's time to relinquish that role to allow other candidates, because you are a strong candidate, to take up these positions?
Well, obviously, I've only been a part-time exec member so far, and I haven't had the welfare remit. So I think I can really add some great value to welfare. I've got some great ideas. I think, anyway. I hope other people agree. The initial reception has been good, and I really, really have the drive to do this. And I don't think the fact that I've had so many roles is a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, because it just means I have a well-rounded view of a lot of things.
What would you say to someone who accuses you of being a CV builder?
Oh no, I'm absolutely not. I'm on aero engineering, and I've actually been advised that all these union roles actually makes it look bad on my CV now, because I've got so many of them. It looks like I'm more interested in this than engineering. So yeah, absolutely not a CV builder at all.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Lovely. Okay, have we got another question in from the audience, Ms. Linsky?
We do indeed, Connor. It's from Elizabeth Rawlinson. Is she out there anywhere? Hi, Liz. Your question.
Okay, so what do you actually think your main skill sets and expertise you can bring to this role, seeing as it's quite new? How would you advertise and sell yourself to us sitting here?
Izzy, how would you sell yourself to the average student?
Well, I think it is such a new role, but I have been lucky enough to work alongside Georgie at the Welfare and Diversity Committee. And I think it's really just opened my eyes to student welfare in general, and it has really, honestly, interested me. I've been on various other committees as well, so and I've really always enjoyed that. But I just want to try and give back as much as I can, and give back to the Loughborough experience.
Thank you, Izzy. Maz?
One thing I'd just like to point out is that it's not, in fact, a new role in itself. I mean, it has been there in the past, obviously combined with education and then being a DO position in the recent years. But in terms of my experience, having been here 5 years, currently a postgrad, I think the fact that I'm a postgrad opens a lot of doors, and again, interacting with people that the majority of the undergraduate students wouldn't normally interact with. And some of the positions that I've held, being a union councillor, being a RAG rep for Butler Court, being on an AU club committee, a society committee, are just a few of the committees that sort of I've been with. And again, being on these committees has taught me to deal with, again, a diverse range of students, again, no pun intended, but it just sort of goes to show that I have the experiences and the skills to conduct the role in the best possible manner. And I'm in no way suggesting that by the committees that I've been on, I've been the best, but I think by the resources that I've been given and the time that I've had to put on certain events or publicise a certain aspect of the role, I think I've done well.
Thank you, Maz. And Dave?
Well, yeah, I think what I can bring to the role for this is, obviously I've been an exec before, albeit only in a part-time role. So I understand all the processes behind, and there's an unbelievable amount of processes that you find out when you get on exec. So I can really hit the ground running, and basically you've got all these manifesto points, but you have to kind of work out how to implement them. Whereas I've already got all that worked out, because I know exactly how the system works. And so I can hit the ground running and get these things done quickly.
Thanks, Dave. So, Georgie, 3 very, very different candidates here. What do you think about their responses so far?
I think they're all very different, which is really good. I think that all 3 of the candidates are strong, but they, each of them have very separate qualities. I think each of them have aspects of what should make a good welfare and diversity candidate, and that's kind of committed, open-minded, diverse in themselves, and flexible, and willing to learn new things. Each kind of candidate has different aspects of that, so I'm sure all of them will be successful.
Thank you, Georgie. Okay, so Rachel, Georgie said that everybody on the panel has got something that the position needs. Quite a blunt question. Who have you got your money on?
Well, it's Loughborough, so Izzy, being a girl, potentially could have the edge. I don't want to, stereotype or anything, but it's pretty evenly matched, to be honest. I wouldn't put money on it, let's say that, because they are very closely contested. But I would like to ask, because communication with actual students is something that you've all picked up on in manifestos or just talking to us. And Dave, particularly, you said that you want to talk to 500 students a week. How do you all plan to balance communicating with students, particularly that many, while balancing everything else that you have to do under the role?
So Dave, to you first.
Yeah, well, absolutely. This goes back to what I said, in the fact that what we currently have are sort of joint events, and I know Georgia spent ages and absolutely setting up these events. That's fantastic. But a lot of these events could be run by SocFed, could be run with Global DO, and essentially, I think the main part of this role needs to actually be out of the office and actually talking to students. Like, we complain that international students don't come to our international events that we've arranged, but if they don't know about them, they're not going to come. It's not that hard to just go out to JP, to go into town, we know where they are, and just go and talk to them, you know what I mean? And so how I would balance it, well, I would basically, a lot of the events have been set up, which is a lot of the hard work. Doing the same thing again is easier, and developing them slightly. But I think the main part of this role needs to actually be going out and talking to students. So I wouldn't see it as, if I'm doing this, I can't really do my role properly, because I see that talking to students as one of the main parts of the role.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. And Izzy, what do you have to say?
No, I agree. I think talking to all the students is really, really important. Ideally, if I was elected, I would want it to, because I see myself as quite an approachable person as well, so hopefully people would want to come to me and talk to me if they had any problems and that sort of thing. I also think that lots of the events, they are linked with the Global DO and the Societies Federation, but I think we should be able to work with them, not just have them separate.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Izzy. And Maz? Maz?
In terms of balancing communication with other aspects of the role, I think communication is of paramount importance. And to put it quite simply, if we don't know what students want, how are we going to put events on? Again, how are we going to publicize events if students may not want them, hence they may not want to come to them? So again, touching up on what Izzy said, a lot of the role itself divulges into SocFed and Global DO as well itself. So it's sort of about getting not just welfare and diversity on board, but it's sort of about getting the whole executive team on board, and that's something that we've seen with Health and Wellbeing Week as well. So yeah, just going out there and talking to students.
Okay, thank you, Maz. 3 very strong contenders, Joe. I can't call it. What about the Twitter sphere?
Well, I certainly can't call it either, Connor. Very experienced candidates here, and it has caused a bit of a stir both in the room and in the Twitter sphere. A tweet has come in to us. It's a question specifically for Maz, actually, who's mentioned about diversity so far. He says, your manifesto seems focused purely on black Middle Eastern students. What will you do for the disability and lesbian, gay and bisexual and transgender students?
Okay, so obviously welfare and diversity, as Georgie touched on earlier, is a huge role, and you have to think about many students. Maz, how would you answer that? How would you respond to that?
In terms of sort of the LGBT community, I can safely say that I've interacted with them a lot. I've sort of gotten to know a lot of them in terms of how they wouldn't want the role to be functioned, but how they as a community could contribute to the role itself. So I think I could safely say that underrepresented students like the LGBT, the mature students, postgrads, are sort of, they're all welcome in sort of welfare and diversity itself, and I can say that there's no way that their sort of views are going to be left out, because like I said in sort of my beginning speech, it's about interacting with sort of a diverse range of students, not a selective group, because sort of that would not be doing my job very well.
Of course. Georgie, is it something you found very difficult catering for the wide variety of students that Loughborough sees?
No, mate, I love everyone. I found it fine. I'm completely fine with it. I really like mixing with lots of different people. And I think you have to be able to do that for the job. Literally, you have to be able to. In one day's meetings, you may meet with the Islam Society to find out about Islam Awareness Week. And then you'll have a meeting with Amargo to find out about healthy food options in catered halls. And then at the end of the day, you'll have a meeting about lighting around campus. And then after, you'll have a meeting with the LGBT Society about taking students to Student Pride, which we did in a couple of weeks. Like, you have to be able to switch mindsets all the time and to be able to mix with different sorts of people. It's something that I've found really easy, and I really hope that the person that comes on next to the role kind of really keeps an open mind about things, because you have to be able to mix with lots of different people and be open-minded enough to put on lots of different events that cater for lots of different people's needs and for their interests. So.
Thank you, Georgie. Okay, Jago, as Maz picked up earlier, this position has evolved to this point and has gone through a lot of changes. Do you think they've got it right this year?
I think they have, and George has done a great job and it's worked really well. It was something that needs to be addressed, and it's been addressed. But this is an election over the last 10 days that's really sort of hotted up on the platform that has been the ethanol over the last couple of weeks. We've had Dave, who's been criticised by an anonymous member of the Welfare Committee for supposedly misrepresenting the truth that he is a member of that committee when he is in fact a part-time member, or so the claim goes. We've had Maz also coming in for criticism, and we've had Maz criticising Dave for what he calls an inadequate manifesto. What I'd like to know from all candidates is, what do they say to those claims? And also, Izzy hasn't really said much. Why, to the gents, why would you make a better candidate than Izzy?
Okay, I think it's important for everybody on the panel to address any criticism they may come up against. Dave, respond to yours.
Yeah, well, I don't think I really need to justify this for an answer. Because basically, to misrepresent the truth, you need to actually misrepresent the truth. And so, have I misrepresented the truth? No. Have I ever said that I got it on Welfare Diversity Committee by interview? No. Have I ever said that I got on Welfare Diversity Committee because it's part of the role that I was elected to do? Yes, I have. Am I on Welfare Diversity Committee because of the role I was meant to do? Yes, I am. So, and it's a role I share with 3 people. And if anyone wanted to ask me before that article was written, then they could have done that. And I've not misrepresented anything. There may have been some confusion, but I personally have never misrepresented anything. So, yeah, it's basically a cruel article.
Thank you, Dave. Izzy, why do you think somebody would come forward from the Welfare and Diversity Committee to make these claims about anyone, and Dave specifically?
I think, well, all the other positions for Welfare and Diversity Committee, apart from the air position, we all had to go through a long process. We had to send in a nomination form and 150 words about why we should be elected. We then had to go for an interview with Georgie, and then Georgie sat down with all the other VPs and they discussed who was going to be all the different positions. All of the positions had at least 2 people going for, one position even had 7 people going for one position. So it was difficult to even get on. And I suppose from someone, I mean, I didn't say anything to the ethanol, but from our perspective, it's difficult for someone else to just come in and to just automatically be on the committee when we've had to go through all this long process. And also, because the air rep does rotate, it only means that they do, like at the time, I think Dave would potentially only gone to like 2 meetings when all the rest of us had been to about maybe 6 or 7, something like that. So he wasn't misrepresenting the truth, I don't think, but I think it was quite a different position.
Okay, thanks, Izzy. So Maz, thank you. So Maz, Jago there quoted saying that you said that Dave's manifesto was inadequate. What do you have to respond to that?
I'd basically say that some of those words were taken out of context, and if there was anything that I had said to Tingle, it was sorted out behind closed doors. And I think before we are opposition, we are people, and it's not that I had to justify myself to Tingle, because we've been given plenty of media opportunities to express ourselves, but I thought it was sort of my right as a person to just go and speak to him and say, this isn't obviously the case, and we've sorted it out, and that's that.
Do you think that is that, Dave?
Yeah. Literally, me and Maz are mates. Like I've no issue with that. But can I just say with this though, that we're all putting ourselves out there, okay? We're all really keen people, and then not to make this about myself. Like you're criticising today 2 of the candidates for VP Dem and Comms, and essentially bringing them down, and all they're doing is trying their hardest, and you're saying that they're the worst candidates ever, and that is really demoralising, and that is a terrible thing to say. And policies, that's fine. I'm a massive supporter of an independent paper that can scrutinise policies, but one that personal attacks, and I know that you are going into people's personal lives and their histories, and I've heard of other candidates sort of had their histories brought up, and that with nothing to do with the role they're going for, and essentially threatening to bring that up. And thankfully, you haven't done that yet for that particular candidate, but you may do in the future. I don't know. And that stands against everything that I was saying.
Okay, I think they're valid points. I think they've made valid points. I also think it's important in under a democratic reign that we do hear a vast spectrum of opinions, and that's why we're here today. So I think, yeah, Chris, very quickly, please.
Speak now to these candidates, because I'm on record as trying to prevent students from dressing in offensive clothing. Now, where do you stand on allowing students to darken their skin tone, to dress up as Nazis or members of fascist parties, and also maybe to mock other cultures? Where do you stand on that?
Okay, so Maz, where do you stand on Chris's opinion there?
I think this opinion is actually quite subjective, and it can be taken in sort of 2 ways. Some people might obviously argue for sort of freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Another party might argue for the fact that what they're doing is wrong. Claims of sort of racism, etc., could obviously come into play. So I think it sort of depends on the sort of the circumstance itself. I think because what Chris has said is obviously a very sort of vague and sort of a general sort of circumstance. So I think it sort of we need to assess this.
The 2 things I listed are very specific.
No, but in terms.
Can you please? They're not generic. They're very direct, very obvious.
I don't think it's very direct. What do you do if someone is wearing too much fake tan?
Okay, I think that's fair enough. Sorry, Georgie, darling.
Sorry, I actually kind of studied this topic in great depth, and it's something that I actually feel really passionate about personally. But still, there is not direct. Where do you draw the line? So we're talking about Nazis here. What do you do if someone's got a really small tash? Okay, so we're talking about darkening your skin colour, which I find offensive. But what do you do with someone that's wearing too much fake tan? Or what do you do with someone that's dressed as Batman, that's got black around their eyes?
What? No. We're discussing people mocking people with a certain skin colour. It's obvious, isn't it? It's direct. When somebody's doing that, dressed in certain
it's
attire.
It's not obvious, though.
It is right. No, but you're talking about specifics. I'm talking about something that is obvious. When somebody thinks it's funny to do that.
Okay, Chris, Georgie, thank you. I think the important thing is actually not just on one person's opinion, but actually I'd like to bring it back to the candidates. Do you feel, Maz, obviously you've responded already, Izzy and Dave, do you feel that it is an issue on campus that needs to be addressed, that people aren't sensitive enough to other cultures and perhaps aren't diverse enough? Izzy?
I do think it is obviously an issue, but I completely agree with Georgie. I mean, where do you draw the line? So I don't know how you would actually properly implement it. So potentially maybe even starting a campaign or something. Maybe some posters just to get people thinking about what they're wearing and how that may affect someone else.
Yeah, I think that's valid. Dave?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. Basically, I don't think you can have a hard and fast rule of this is okay, this isn't okay, because these things change as well. What's offensive today was fine. Jimmy Savile would have been fine 2 years ago, whereas now it's offensive. And so you'd have to have a constantly updating list. And who's going to update this list, and why are we doing this anyway? Essentially, we just need to make sure that students are more aware of the offence that they can cause, and they're not going to have that from a banned list of these. So then they're not going to understand why they're banned. So we need basically I'm agreeing with Izzy, basically. I think a campaign would be good.
Thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, I had to sack off my spaghetti costume because pastafarians actually got quite offended when I. So I think it's fair to say that underrepresented groups do need to be thought about a bit more. Joe, have we got another question from the audience?
We certainly have, Connor. Now, sparks flying between the firing squad and the candidates, and it's caused a bit of a stir down here on the floor as well. Now, Cherie, I believe, has a question for us.
I do, thank you. This question is slightly more directed at Dave. The point in your manifesto about speaking to 500 students a week, I'm just wondering how you might actually have the time to do that, because from previous experience door knocking, a hall of say about 300 people, if you actually want to talk to them directly, which I presume you do and have nice conversations with them, that could take up to about 3 hours, and you're saying 500, which is almost double. And from reading Georgie's exec report, her hours anyway are about 10, 11 hours a day. When are you going to find the time to do this when people aren't sleeping?
Dave?
Well, absolutely. That's why I said that basically that would make that the focus of it. So basically the events that were originally SOCFED and Global and still kind of are, but are also with welfare, I'd support them, but I wouldn't be fully organising them, because SOCFED and Global, certainly this year, are very keen to do it as well. And so having 3 people to do it is kind of redundant. So essentially, bus stops, they have 20 people. They don't have to be very long conversations. They can literally be, have you got any welfare issues? And if not, then that's fine. So what we need to find out is the people with the issues. And we aren't going to be able to contact those people if they don't know who we are. And so literally saying hello is perfect.
Thank you very much. So guys, obviously the question was directed at Dave, but is speaking, obviously a massive part of the job, and as Georgie found this year, is to get out there and get to know people, to see what the issues are. Is that something that's quite daunting to you to be able to handle?
I don't think it's daunting going out to speak to people, because I personally really like speaking to people and seeing their opinions on things. I think obviously 500 people for a week, is that what it was? Yeah, that's obviously a big number. It would be difficult. I think personally I would, for those people that do maybe feel underrepresented or for certain issues, one of my manifesto points is to have like a drop-in session, and when they can come and talk to me about those things. And also, as I was saying before, like hopefully people do think I'm approachable, so they would always email me or something if they did have a problem. I think it is a big point to obviously go out and speak to people, but I wouldn't make that absolutely my main role. I still want to be really involved in all the events and everything, and all the campaigns as well. Because I don't know, who would you pass the campaigns on to? Would you still be involved in them? Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the campaigns is talking to people. Like, the campaigns are to talk to people about the campaigns. So going out and doing the campaign work can be part of this 500 people. That's the point.
Thanks, Dave. And Maz?
As I said before, speaking to people is paramount. Getting them involved is paramount. How would you organise events if you don't know what they want, who they are, what they're looking for? I'd agree with Izzy that 500 people might be a bit difficult, but again, given the right management, given the right time, the right resources, it could definitely be achieved. And in terms of experience, I think, again, being here for 5 years, being in all the positions that I have been, has given me a chance to get involved with and interact with students, people that I haven't had the chance to get involved with if I would have not been involved in all these committees. So I think I would sort of relish the chance to obviously get this role and, start making a difference.
Okay, thanks very much, Maz. I'm afraid that's all we have time for on the debate with VP Welfare and Diversity. Please give a huge round of applause to Maz, Izzy and Dave.